Welcome back everybody to the Meeple Marathon and another unboxing video, this time of another real-time strategy game. This one by Z-Man Games, and this one is set in the Pandemic universe. This one's called Pandemic Rapid Response. So, it's set in the Pandemic universe, but it is very different than your standard Pandemic game. So let's take a look at the back here. This is considered a real-time dice game. So essentially you're going to be given a 2-minute time limit to roll out your unique custom dice depending on your specialist character. And what you're attempting to do is create the resources necessary to airdrop what certain cities around the world need to fight the pandemic. So we're essentially on this super futuristic airplane that can create things like fresh water, medicine, energy, vaccines, things like that. So we essentially need to move around the ship using these dice and create the things we need. Then we need to collect them, dump them, all while keeping too much, I forget what the term is called, salvage or something like that, from accumulating before you win the game. And essentially if you're able to deliver everything you need in the allotted amount of time, which I think is like only 7 rounds or something like that, then you win the game. If you don't, then you lose. It's very simple, very fast to play. They take about 20 minutes. So let's take a look inside at Pandemic Rapid Response. So this game is 2 to 4 players, but it can be played solo because it's cooperative. You just have to be prepared to roll, for 2 people, play two-handed. So here is the instruction manual. You can see there's an overview of what's in the box, and then setup. Here is the board, which is essentially like the interior of your fancy ship. But then it's pretty straightforward. Key concepts, and then it gives you an idea of what each room does, and then some more concepts, and then this is basically increasing the difficulty. So you're looking at 3 pages of rules here, and then kind of a summary page. Alright, I'm going to assume this is the board. You don't see this very often, but the board is actually wrapped up here. So let's get it open. Usually you just see a board just stuck in there. Maybe this is new for Z-Man Games. Alright. Okay, so it is a 4-piece board, but it's very long and skinny. Alright, so essentially you're looking at various areas here where you can create certain things. So you need to have your pawn in these areas, roll out the dice, and fill up these sections here. And when you fill up the dice, you don't have to create something on your turn, but you don't get those dice on your next turn per se until someone has completed the actions here. So you can see, for example, you need to put 2 water dice down to fill this first section. So you can't just put 1 down and then walk away. You need to put 2 in, and then you need to put a 3rd one in. You can put it in by itself, and you can create 2 water resources. If, however, you wait and put 5 in total, you can get 3 water resources. When resources are created, they're put at the back of the plane here, and your plane can only hold but so many resources. So once this is full, you're going to have to start kicking stuff out. But essentially, you work your way up to the back of the plane and kick out what you need as you pass over a city. And then this last section here is what is created. I think it's like salvage or something like that. Every time you create something, you have to roll the dice, and you could create kind of overflow or garbage essentially. And if you let it get up to 10, 11, then you lose the game. So you're going to have to every now and then send somebody into here to place down dice to reduce this number back and keep lowering it throughout the game. The only other parts of the ship are just up here in the front area is where the cards sit. But other than that, it's this nice, big, long, stretched out board. Looks like it doesn't lay super flat, so you might want to definitely have that laid out for a little while. Okay, so here are these cards, and it's very straightforward that Bogota needs 2 water resources, 1 of this green resource here, and 1 vaccine. And if we go back to our board here, you can see that Bogota, if we can find it, is way up here. So you would put this card right here. Now, not only do you have to create this stuff, but you also have to fly to the specific places. So some of the dice rolls allow you to move your ship around, because you can't just magically pop from Hong Kong to Bogota. So the game does come with this cute little miniature that I'm putting together here. This represents your plane and where it is in the world. So if you're way over here in Bangkok, you will have to move around the board before and get to Bogota before you can even drop off the resources if you have them on your plane. And these cities are going to come out throughout the game. You're going to start with 2 out, so you'll have a general idea where you want to head. But then you may have 2 on this side of the board, and then you may have like Delhi added over here, which means you have to think about it. Or you may have 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. So say you do this one, do I go this way or do I go this way? So those are just some of the decisions that you need to make. So there's a card for each one, and they're color coded so they're easier to find, but a card for each country. And again, you're only going to be doing 7 of these a game, so that adds some variety. These cards here are an optional module that you can play with. They increase the difficulty, so essentially between every round, every timed round, you would draw one of these and do what it says. So for this one it says place this card on top of the closest city card. While this card is in play, you cannot discard the card below it. Okay, I don't really know what that means, but I guess maybe you have to put something on this card. Yeah, because there's these resources. So maybe I have to drop off a band-aid, some first aid. Here I have to drop off food. Here I have to drop off an additional vaccine, water. Players must spend 1 additional plane as a result to fly. So they just make the game harder. But again, this is an optional module. And then we have our specialists, and they are from various countries throughout the world, which is fun. And then we have some just turn order action reminder cards. But you can see here that also each specialist has their own unique ability. So Ian, who is the recycler from the United States, when you activate a supply room, roll 1 fewer die to generate waste. That's what it's called. This is called waste. I kept calling it salvage. When you assign dice in the recycling center, skip the first space, which is cool. So when you start putting dice here, that's going to reduce your number of waste back down by 4 to 1. You actually get to skip this first step and jump right to here. So a Joya Sorrow, you can re-roll your dice up to 2 additional times each turn. So this is like a kind of like a Yahtzee style. It is real time, but you're going to be going around the board or around the room, around the table, and you each get to roll the dice 3 times like Yahtzee, and then your turn is over with. So she can actually roll 5 times instead of 3. Raquel can assign dice to die spaces as if the spaces were not grouped. So again, like for example here, you can lay down a single die to start your food processing, but then you need to be able to lay down 2 food die at once. But she could just do 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Anton, when you spend a die to fly, you may move the plane 1 additional city. So he can go from Delhi all the way to Riyadh with 1 die. Let's see, Martina Rivera. During your turn, you can place 1 of your dice in HQ. During any other player's turn, they can assign that die, which is nice. So you have an extra die you're not using, you can stick it over here. And that would be good for Su Jin, who can use dice that are the airplane symbol as a wild. So if you were playing as Martina and rolled a plane and didn't need to move the plane, you could put it up here in HQ, and Sujin could use it as a wild on her turn. And then Rohan here, when you spend a die to move, you may move one additional room. So again, you have to spend die to move from this room to this room to this room. Every color-coded area in this place is has to be moved to, so he can actually move 2 places at once. So there's the specialists. And here are the dice. This is probably the nicest thing about the game, are the color-coded dice. Because while you're playing, there may be a time where you've left a die up here and someone else adds the rest, accomplishes the task, and they all get wiped off the board. You want to be able to return them as normal. So it doesn't really matter. They're all the same within the same color code. But you can see that they're very nice, like marbleized dice here. I don't know, the green or the gray may be my favorite color here. So you can see that they're very nicely done. They're etched in there, engraved. So these are just really nice. They're not too big. They could be a little bit bigger, but they roll really well. They feel really nice in your hand. So there are the dice, 4 colors for 4 players. Again, this is your little mover token. Then we've got some pawns here. So there's 1 color pawn for each colored dice. And again, these are what you're actually moving around the plane. Okay. This keeps track of your waste here. And then these are what I like to call your one-ups. If anybody that's familiar with any video game, especially Mario, in Mario you would play around, and if you lost a life, you would lose one of your lives, one of your mushrooms, but then you get to play again. So in this game, you start with, I think, 3, and you have 2 minutes to do whatever you can. And at the end of 2 minutes, you take away a thing, and you get to play again. You get to play another round. Then you play another 2 minutes. When the 2 minutes is up, you get to play another round. If at any point, though, you successfully deliver to a city, it's like getting a mushroom. In Mario, you get one of these 1-ups back. Alright, so that's how you stay in the game and are able to make it to delivering to 7 cities. But then again, at the end of the game, if you use your timer, and then as long as you have 1 thing here, 1-up left, you can run that timer again. So it's not until the timer runs out and you have no more lives that your game is over and you have lost. So here is the timer. This is a 2-minute timer, a very basic timer, but from everything I've read, people recommend just setting a timer on your phone because it's very easy to set this up over here in HQ, let it run, and you completely miss when the time is up because you're so focused on your dice. Your phone will ding at you. And the last thing we have is a bunch of little plastic cubes. These are the resources that you create. So say you create 3 first aid, you would take 3 of these 4 cubes and put them over here. So not only do you have a finite amount of space that you can store resources in on your plane, but you also have a finite number of each of the specific resource that you can create before you need to dump off more and get those cubes back. So you can create up to 4 first aid here before you need to dump some on a city, and then you can start creating more first aid. And that essentially is in the box. The box does come with this, pretty decent cardboard divider here. Let's just check underneath. Nope, no secrets underneath, and that's fine. Some people do that, but there you go. So that is Pandemic Rapid Response. That was just a quick unboxing. I will be doing a playthrough of this, solo playthrough, 2-handed, here shortly, so keep an eye out for that. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you want to see the playthrough of this, please consider subscribing to the channel so you can be notified when that video hits YouTube. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great night.